It was late, way past midnight. I was on my way back from visiting my folks, a good 8-hour drive, and I decided to take the old interstate, Route 17, the one that snakes through the mountains, cutting off a good hour from the trip. Most people avoid it after dark. Too many sharp turns, not enough lights. But I was tired, and I just wanted to be home. The moon was a sliver of white in a sky full of stars, but down in the valleys it was just dark. Pitch black. My headlights cut through it like weak beams in an ocean. No other cars for miles. Just me, the hum of the engine, and the endless stretch of asphalt. I remember glancing at the fuel gauge. Almost empty. Great. I knew there was a gas station about 20 miles up, but it was one of those old rundown places. The kind that looks like it's been abandoned for decades, even when it's open. Still, it was my only option. And then I saw her. A figure on the side of the road. At first, I thought it was just a shadow, or maybe a deer, but as I got closer, the headlights caught her, a woman, standing perfectly still, facing away from me, her back to the road. She was wearing what looked like an old, faded white dress, almost translucent in the dim light. No bag, no jacket, nothing. Just standing there. My first instinct was to keep driving. You hear stories, right? About people staging breakdowns, about other things. But then I saw her hand. It slowly, almost deliberately, lifted and waved. A single, slow, desperate wave. Something in me, some stupid impulse, made me pull over. I rolled down the passenger window, just a crack. My heart was pounding, but I tried to keep my voice steady. "Everything all right?" I called out. She turned, and that's when the first chill hit me. Not because of what I saw, not exactly. It was more what I didn't see. Her face was obscured by shadow, her hair long and dark, falling over it. But her eyes, I couldn't see them. Just two deeper pockets of shadow in an already shadowed face. She didn't move towards the car, just stood there, staring. "Do you need a ride?" I asked, my voice a little less steady now. I was about to say I was going to the gas station up ahead, but she beat me to it. "Just up the road." Narrator, that was all she said. Just those 3 words. She didn't open the door. She just opened it. Like the lock wasn't there. Like the handle was just a suggestion. And she slid in. Smooth as smoke. I swear, I didn't even hear her footsteps. She was just there. In the passenger seat. The air in the car immediately dropped a few degrees. A sudden, oppressive cold. I could feel it on my skin. I risked a glance. She was sitting perfectly still, facing forward, hands clasped in her lap. Still no face. Just that shadowed outline. "Where exactly are you headed?" I tried again, my voice barely a whisper now. I gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles were white. The silence was deafening, broken only by the hum of the engine and that non-sound from beside me. I kept glancing at the rearview mirror, checking for other cars. Nothing. Just the dark road stretching behind us, endless. That's when I started to notice things. The temperature in the car kept dropping. I could see my breath in the air. And then, the smell. Like damp earth and something else. Something ancient and stale. I told myself it was my imagination. The late hour, the exhaustion. But then I looked at the road ahead. And I knew with a sickening lurch in my stomach that we'd been driving for too long. The gas station should have been visible by now. But there was nothing. Just the same winding road, the same dark trees, and the same empty sky. I risked another glance at her. And this time, something was different. Her head was tilted slightly, towards me. I still couldn't see her eyes, but I felt them. I felt that void staring at me, and that's when I heard it clear as day, right next to my ear. "You're on my road." A sudden jarring sound, like a loud sharp thud from under the car, or a rapid heavy breathing sound. Narrator, I swerved. The car fishtailed, tires squealing. I slammed on the brakes, my heart hammering against my ribs. The car lurched to a stop, throwing me forward against the seatbelt. I gasped, my eyes wide, staring at the empty road ahead. I turned, ready to scream, ready to demand she get out, ready to just escape. But she wasn't there. The passenger door was closed, locked. The seat was empty. No trace. Nothing. Just the chilling, stale scent that still clung to the air. I sat there, paralyzed, for what felt like an eternity. My mind was racing, trying to find a logical explanation. Did I imagine it? Was I hallucinating from exhaustion? But the cold was real. The smell was real. The smell was real. Finally, I fumbled for the keys, my hands shaking so violently I could barely grip them. I started the car. The engine caught, then roared to life. I threw it into drive and sped away, not caring where I was going, just desperate to be away from that place. I drove until dawn, until the first sliver of light touched the horizon, chasing away the shadows. I found a diner, miles and miles away from that interstate, and pulled in. My hands were still shaking, and I couldn't stop looking in the rearview mirror. I never took Route 17 again. I never will. And sometimes, late at night, when I'm alone, I still hear that whisper on the wind, that breathy, unnatural voice. I don't know who she was, or what she was. A ghost? Something else? All I know is that she was there. And then she wasn't. And that stretch of road, it's still there, waiting. And sometimes I wonder how many others have pulled over for the woman in white. How many others are now on her road? I've always loved solo camping. Just me, my tent, and miles of nothing but trees. It's my escape. Last fall, I decided to tackle the Blackwood trails up north. Remote. Really remote. You drive for an hour past the last gas station, then another half hour down a gravel road that barely counts as a road. My kind of place. I hiked in late afternoon, found a perfect spot near a small creek. Set up my tent, got the fire going. The sun was dipping below the canopy, painting the sky in a bloody orange. Felt good. Peaceful. Just as I always hoped. I ate my dehydrated meal, sipped my coffee, watched the stars start to pepper the deepening blue. That's when I first felt it, a prickle on the back of my neck, like someone was standing directly behind me. I spun around, flashlight beam cutting through the gloom. Nothing, just the trees stretching into infinity. Probably a deer, I told myself, or just my imagination getting carried away. I tried to shake it off. Stoked the fire, made it blaze higher. The warmth was comforting, a small island of light in a sea of black. I pulled out my book, tried to read, but my eyes kept darting to the darkness beyond the firelight. Then I heard it. A whisper. Too soft to make out words, but distinct. It wasn't the wind. The wind was barely a breath. This was deliberate, like someone exhaling right next to my ear. I froze. My heart hammered against my ribs. I held my breath, straining to hear. Nothing. Just the crickets and the crackling fire. "Hello?" I called out, my voice sounding ridiculously small in the vastness. Silence. Just the echoing emptiness. I told myself it was the wind playing tricks. The woods are full of sounds, right? Old trees creaking, leaves rubbing together. I tried to convince myself, but that prickle on my neck was back. Stronger. I finally zipped myself into the tent. It felt like a flimsy shield, but it was something. I laid in my sleeping bag, eyes wide open, staring at the dimly lit canvas ceiling. Every snap, every rustle, every distant hoot of an owl sounded amplified. My mind was playing tricks, I reasoned. Sleep deprivation. The isolation. That's when the rhythmic sound started. A soft, steady thump, thump, thump. Not right outside my tent, but nearby. Maybe 20 yards away. It wasn't an animal. It was too regular, too intentional. Like someone slowly, methodically walking in a circle around my campsite. Barefoot. I sat up, clutching my multi-tool, heart pounding so hard I thought it would burst through my chest. The thumping continued, closer now. And then, I heard another sound, a soft, dragging noise, like something being pulled slowly through the undergrowth. A whisper, not words, just a sustained, low hum, almost like a lullaby, but utterly terrifying. I pressed myself against the back of the tent, tears stinging my eyes. This wasn't a deer. This wasn't the wind. Something was out there, and it was circling me. I pulled out my phone. No signal, of course. My emergency whistle. I gripped it so tight my fingers ached. The silence was worse. So much worse. My breath hitched in my throat, and then directly outside my tent flap, so close I could feel the vibrations through the ground, a new sound. A slow, agonizing scrape, like long, dry nails dragging slowly down the canvas of my tent. I screamed, a raw, guttural sound torn from my throat. I lashed out, kicking at the tent wall where I heard the scraping, and then I scrambled for the zipper, tearing it open, desperate to get out. I burst out of the tent, flashlight beams shaking wildly, sweeping it in a frantic arc around the campsite. Trees. Only trees. The dying embers of my campfire cast long, dancing shadows that seemed to twist and writhe. Nothing. No one. But then I saw it. Just at the edge of my weak flashlight beam where the light bled into the absolute blackness. Two small, pinprick reflections. Too high off the ground for an animal, and not moving. Just staring. 2 points of light, like eyes, watching me. My mind screamed at me to run, but my feet were rooted to the spot. I couldn't tear my gaze away from those reflections. They were too still, too deliberate. And then, slowly, agonizingly slowly, one of the reflections seemed to dip, then the other. Like something was slowly, deliberately, blinking. That was it. That was the breaking point. I spun around, blindly grabbing my bag, not caring what I left behind. I scrambled into my car, fumbling with the keys, hands shaking so violently I could barely get them in the ignition. I threw the car into reverse, tires spitting gravel, and then slammed it into drive, tearing down that dirt road. I didn't look in the rearview mirror. I couldn't. All I could see in my mind were those 2 pinprick reflections in the dark, blinking. I drove for hours. Didn't stop until the sun was fully up, painting the world in a warm, comforting light. I found a diner and collapsed inside, my body screaming, my mind numb. I never went back for my tent, or anything I left behind, and I haven't been camping alone since. Every now and then, when I'm walking through the woods, even in broad daylight, I feel it. That cold prickle on my neck. That feeling of being watched. I don't know what was out there. An animal? A person? Or something older? Something that belonged to those woods. All I know is that sometimes when the wind blows just right and the trees sigh, I can still hear that faint low hum. And I wonder how many others have heard it too. How many others are still being watched? My uncle left it to me. Remote. No cell service. Just a handful of old books, a fireplace that smoked a little too much, and a view of a frozen lake that was so still it looked like polished stone. I went there to write. To just disappear for a while. The first few days were perfect. Crisp air, the smell of pine, the absolute quiet. I'd spend my days by the window, writing, and my nights by the fire, reading. The cabin was old, and it made its own noises. The wind would groan through the chinks in the logs, and the floorboards would settle. I got used to it, or I thought I did. The first thing that felt wrong was the clock. The grandfather clock in the corner. I hadn't wound it, but every morning its hands were in a different position than when I left them. Never ticking, just moved. I convinced myself I was forgetting where I'd seen it. Exhaustion, you know? The mind plays tricks, but then the scratching started. It wasn't in the walls. It was in the floor, right under the rug in front of the fireplace. Not a scuttling, like a mouse. More of a slow, deliberate scrape, scrape, scrape. I'd stomp on the floor, and it would stop instantly. I'd lift the rug, see nothing but old wood, and the second I turned away, it would start again. It was a mind game. I knew it. The isolation was getting to me, so I tried to ignore it. I put on headphones and listened to music, but even with the volume up, I could still feel the vibrations of that scratching through the floor. It was in my bones. One night, I was by the fire, just staring into the flames. The The cabin was warm, the fire was roaring, but I got this overwhelming feeling of cold. The kind of cold that comes from within, not from the air. I looked over at the doorway leading to the dark hallway where the bedrooms were. A shadow. Not a shadow cast by the firelight, but a deeper blackness. A figure standing in the hallway, completely still. It was tall and thin, like a man, but the proportions were all wrong. The arms seemed to hang to its knees. I didn't see a face, just a void. I froze. Void. I froze. Every rational thought in my head screamed, it's just the light playing tricks. But something deeper, something primal knew it wasn't. The figure didn't move, didn't breathe, didn't do anything but stand there, watching me. The cold in the room intensified, and I could see my own breath. I felt like I was in a tomb. You shouldn't be here. Narrator, I screamed. I don't remember if it was loud or not, but it tore through the stillness. I scrambled backward, knocking over a chair, my eyes locked on the figure. And then, in a blink, it was gone. The cold receded instantly. The ticking of the clock resumed with a sudden loud tick as if it had never stopped. I spent the rest of the night huddled in my sleeping bag, not daring to leave the room. I was certain it was a dream, a hallucination brought on by the isolation. I told myself I'd pack up in the morning and leave, get out of that place forever. But in the morning, the clock was in its new position. The front door was a heavy old thing with a deadbolt I always locked at night. The chain was on, too. When I went to leave, I found it was completely unlocked, unchained. A gust of cold wind hit me. I hadn't opened it. I hadn't touched it since the night before. My blood ran cold. I knew I couldn't stay another minute. I grabbed my bags, not caring what I left behind, and bolted out the door. My car was parked 100 yards away. I fumbled for the keys, heart hammering in my chest. As I drove away, I glanced in my rearview mirror. The cabin looked completely normal in the bright morning light, cozy, quaint. But in the upstairs window, the window of the room where the floorboards had been creaking, I saw a reflection. Not mine, not a tree, but a tall, distorted figure, standing perfectly still, watching me drive away. I've never gone back. I sold the cabin sight unseen. But sometimes late at night in my quiet apartment I feel it. A sudden drop in temperature, a prickle on the back of my neck, and a subtle, almost imperceptible scrape from the floor. I don't know what it was. A ghost? A figment of my imagination? All I know is that the cabin isn't just a place. It's a door. And whatever was behind it, it's not contained anymore. And sometimes when I get quiet enough, I worry that it's finally found me.